Ever get the feeling that, like, there's more to advertising than meets the eye? Like maybe those catchy jingles and celebrity endorsements are working on us in ways we don't even realize. Well, get ready to dive deep because today we're unpacking the surprising truth about how advertising really works, all thanks to a fascinating article.
Ads don't work that way
Yeah,
from melting asphalt.
exactly.
This article really flips the script on the common belief that ads just hammer away at our emotions until we're practically drooling over a product. It dives into the idea that advertising is more of a social game,
Yeah.
subtly tapping into our desires to fit in and signal who we are to the world.
I'm intrigued. I think we've all fallen for that emotional inception theory at some point.
Oh.
You know, the idea that if an ad shows enough happy people drinking a certain soda, we'll automatically associate that drink with happiness and crave it.
Right.
But the article makes a really interesting point about that.
Exactly. It uses the example of a Coke employee randomly showering you with free drinks and massages on the street. Sure, you'd probably start to feel pretty good about Coke, but that's because you're getting a real, tangible reward. Most ads just don't have that kind of direct power.
Right.
They're images and sounds, not a free back rub.
That's a great point. It's like the difference between seeing a picture of a delicious meal and actually getting to taste it.
Right.
One is just a representation. The other is a real experience.
Exactly.
And this gets to the heart of the article's argument.
Mm.
If ads could manipulate our desires, that easily wouldn't we be using this power on ourselves all the time?
Right. Think about it.
Yeah.
Why aren't we constantly bombarded with self-improvement ads that promise to make us more disciplined, outgoing, or whatever else we might want to change? The truth is our desires and motivations run much deeper than that.
It makes you wonder what's really going on when an ad grabs our attention. If it's not simply a matter of rewiring our brains, how do they actually work?
Yeah. The article suggests that advertising often operates in a more rational way than we give it credit for by providing us with information, even if it's not always flashy or obvious. Sometimes it's as simple as raising awareness that a product exists.
Like that liquid Drano example the article mentioned. You might not be thinking about drain cleaner until you've got a clogged sink, but suddenly that ad you saw a while back becomes super relevant.
Right.
It's not that the ad implanted a hidden desire for drain cleaner. It simply informed you that a solution exists for a problem you might encounter.
Exactly. It's all about providing information at the right time. But of course, advertising can be more persuasive too. Think about those old cigarette ads that claimed more doctors smoke Camels.
Oh, yeah.
They were trying to present a logical argument,
Right.
albeit a flawed one, for why you should choose their brand.
And then there's the good old-fashioned promise. When a brand like Disney builds its entire image around family-friendly entertainment,
Right.
they're essentially making a promise to their customers.
Mm-hmm.
They know that if they break that trust, it'll hurt their business.
And sometimes that promise is signaled through the sheer expense of the ad campaign itself. A company shelling out millions for a Super Bowl commercial is demonstrating a serious commitment to their product.
It's like they're saying, we believe in this so much, we're willing to bet big on it, which can actually be pretty reassuring for a consumer. But the article points out that not all advertising is so straightforward. Some ads don't seem to convey any real information at all. Like those Corona beer ads with the idyllic beach scenes. What does that actually tell you about the beer itself?
Or right, you could swap out that Corona with any other beer and the image would still evoke that same relaxed, beachy vibe.
Yeah.
So if it's not about giving you hard facts, what's the point?
Okay, now I'm really curious. What's the secret sauce behind those kinds of ads?
That's where the article's central idea comes in cultural imprinting. Instead of trying to directly manipulate your emotions, these ads are working on a more subtle level, shaping the cultural landscape and influencing how you might be perceived by others when you use that product.
Wait, hold on. I need to unpack this cultural imprinting idea a bit further. It sounds fascinating, but I'm not sure I fully grasp it yet.
It's about tapping into those deeply ingrained social instincts we all have, that desire to fit in and be seen in a certain way.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going.
Imagine you see that Corona ad with the beach scene. You might not consciously think, I need to drink Corona to feel like I'm on vacation, but the ad is planting a seed. It's associating the beer with a certain lifestyle, a certain image, a certain feeling.
And that image becomes even more powerful when everyone knows that everyone else is seeing it too.
Exactly. That's the concept of common knowledge the article talks about. An ad's power is amplified when it becomes a shared cultural reference point, something everyone understands. It's no longer just an image. It's a symbol, a story, a shared experience.
This makes me think about Super Bowl ads. They're not just trying to reach a massive audience. They're trying to create a cultural moment,
Right.
something people will talk about and reference long after the game is over.
That's a great example. They're embedding the brand into the fabric of that shared experience. And this is where the article's argument about cultural imprinting really clicks. It's not about directly manipulating our emotions, but about shaping how we perceive a product, and perhaps more importantly, how others perceive us when we use it.
Wow, this is a real mind shift. It's like we're active participants in this cultural game, choosing how we want to be perceived through the products we use.
Exactly.
But if that's true, why are some products heavily advertised while others are virtually ignored?
That's a great question, and it leads us to another fascinating point the article makes. The theory of cultural imprinting predicts that heavily advertised products are often those consumed or displayed publicly, those that play a role in our social lives.
So it's not just about the product itself, but about how that product fits into our social interactions and the image we want to project to others.
Exactly. Let's dive deeper into this in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we're talking about how this whole cultural imprinting thing plays out in the real world. Why are some products plastered all over billboards and TV screens while others fly under the radar?
The article makes a really interesting comparison
Yeah.
between bed sheets and soda. We rarely see ads for bed sheets, even though they're a common household item. Why is that?
Because no one's really judging you based on the thread count of your sheets. I mean, unless you're inviting people over for a thread count party.
Exactly. Bed sheets are hidden away, not something you're typically showing off to others. But soda,
Right.
that's different. Drinking a soda, especially a particular brand, can be a social activity. It sends a signal, whether consciously or not.
It's like that old saying, you are what you eat, but in this case, it's you are what you drink in public.
Precisely. And this difference in social visibility explains why we see way more brand advertising for soda than for gasoline, even though both are essentially commodities.
That's so interesting. You'd think with the price of gas these days, there'd be more competition and therefore more advertising.
You'd think so. But gasoline is mostly consumed in private. You fill up your tank and no one really knows what brand you're using. But when you grab a soda at a party or a restaurant, your choice is on display. It becomes part of your social persona.
It's like choosing a side in a cola war. But this leads to another intriguing question the article raises. If cultural imprinting is all about shaping perceptions, why do brands generally stick to a single message instead of tailoring their ads for different audiences?
It seems counterintuitive, right? If the goal was to simply manipulate emotions, you'd think brands would bombard us with every positive association imaginable, even if those messages contradict each other.
You'd be like a chaotic jumble of emotions.
Yeah.
This car is both rugged, Andy, luxurious, practical, Andy, sporty, affordable, Andy, exclusive.
But that approach wouldn't work because it undermines the power of cultural imprinting. Brands are like social currency. Their value comes from sending a clear, consistent signal.
So it's not just about associating a product with any positive emotion, but with a specific emotion or idea that resonates with a particular group. Like, if I want to project an image of being adventurous and outdoorsy, I might choose a brand that consistently emphasizes those values in their ads, even if it means alienating people who prefer a more luxurious or sophisticated vibe.
Exactly. It's like choosing a flag to fly.
Right.
You're aligning yourself with a certain tribe, a certain set of values. And if a brand tries to be everything to everyone, it ends up meaning nothing to anyone.
It loses its power as a social signal because it's no longer signaling anything distinct. It's trying to please everyone and ends up pleasing no one.
That's a great way to put it. This also brings us to another thought-provoking point from the article. If emotional inception were real, we should be able to effectively advertise to ourselves.
Whoa, that's a really interesting concept. So like, instead of relying on external ads to shape our desires, we could create our own personalized ads to motivate ourselves.
Exactly. Imagine trying to motivate yourself with a personalized ad.
Hmm.
You create a powerful image with a slogan like, "Be more disciplined," next to a picture of your ideal self hitting the gym or acing that presentation. If this whole emotional manipulation thing really worked, wouldn't that be incredibly effective?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But we all know that simply looking at a motivational poster doesn't magically transform us into disciplined superhumans.
Right. And the reason, according to this article, is that cultural imprinting relies on shared social meanings. It's a collective game we're all playing.
So you're saying my personal pep talk poster lacks the power of a shared cultural narrative because it's only visible and meaningful to me?
Precisely. It's like trying to start a trend all by yourself. You need others to buy in, to participate in that shared meaning making for it to really take off. Which brings us to a really important takeaway from the article. Advertising is not some sinister force that controls our minds. It's a social game that we're all playing whether we realize it or not.
That's such a powerful way to reframe how we think about advertising. It's not about being passively manipulated. It's about actively participating in this ongoing cultural conversation.
Exactly. And this perspective shift can be really empowering. It helps us see that we're not just mindless consumers. We're constantly making choices about how we want to be perceived through the products we use and the messages we send.
It's like we're all walking billboards,
Yeah.
broadcasting our values and aspirations through the brands we choose to align with.
And that brings us to a crucial question. If advertising is truly about social signaling, what does that reveal about our values and priorities as a society?
What messages are we most susceptible to, and why?
And how can we become more conscious of these influences so we can make more authentic choices that genuinely reflect who we are?
This is getting deep.
Yeah.
Are you ready to explore these questions further in the final part of our deep dive? So we've established that advertising isn't just about like shoving products down our throats. It's a much more nuanced game
Right.
of cultural imprinting, shaping perceptions and tapping into our desires to fit in and signal who we are.
Absolutely.
But now the big question is, if it's all about social signaling, what does that tell us about ourselves?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like holding up a mirror to society and seeing not just the products we buy, but the deeper desires, anxieties, and values that drive our choices.
It's almost a bit unnerving when you think about it. We like to think we're making independent decisions, but this whole cultural imprinting idea suggests that we're much more influenced by external forces than we realize.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, though. Think of it like this. We're all constantly bombarded with messages about what's cool, what's desirable, what signifies success or belonging. Advertising is just one part of that larger cultural conversation.
I guess that makes sense. It's not that we're mindless sheep being led by clever marketing campaigns. It's more like we're all participating in this ongoing dance between individual expression and social conformity.
Exactly. We're all trying to figure out how to navigate this complex social landscape, and advertising provides us with a set of symbols and shortcuts to communicate who we are or who we want to be.
So it's not just about whether we buy that fancy coffee or that brand name sneaker. It's about what those choices say about us,
Right.
about the image we want to project and the tribe we want to belong to.
Precisely. And by understanding how this cultural imprinting works, we can become more conscious consumers, not just of products, but of the messages and meanings that surround them.
We can start to ask ourselves, am I buying this because I genuinely value it, or am I being swayed by the cultural narrative that's been carefully crafted around it?
That's the beauty of this deeper understanding. It empowers us to make more authentic choices, ones that align with our own values rather than those being sold to us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of advertising, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the most important thing is to develop a critical eye. Don't just passively absorb the messages being thrown at you. Question them, deconstruct them, figure out what they're really saying about our culture and about ourselves.
It's like learning a secret language. Once you understand the code, you can start to see through the smoke and mirrors and make more informed decisions about how you want to participate in this game.
And remember, you always have a choice. You can buy into the hype, or you can create your own narrative. You can be a conscious consumer or a passive participant. The power is ultimately in your hands.
That's it for our deep dive into the surprising truth about advertising. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.